Not
jump
here.
right in to our draft recap. We were going to cover this last week. We're about a week late, but NFL draft happened at the end of April, beginning of May, and we're going to talk about where everybody landed, how that's going to impact the hobby. Give me some of the things, your highlights from the draft, what you saw, and what you're thinking about in regards to how that's going to impact the hobby.
Well, I always like to, especially with football cards, because baseball cards is more my thing. With football cards, I like to equate what I'm seeing with the draft and the product releases and card market prices with how you doing on my fantasy team.
Okay.
So, so I mean, the bottom line is, for example, take some fantasy football rankings or look at some statistics. And statistics drive, especially in football, these prices. I mean, you could see week to week fluctuations like crazy just from a Sunday performance. So I'm looking at who's going to be in the best scenario, who's got weapons around them, and who's most likely to perform.
That being said, let's look at Joe Burrow. The Bengals added his college teammate, Jamar Chase. They still have T. Higgins. Burrow coming off the injury. Some of his obviously bigger silver auto cards are expensive, but some of his, lesser base cards are still affordable, especially if you're buying them raw. You could look for some Burrow raw prism lots or, optic or some of the other higher end raw cards, try to get him graded. I think that if Burrow comes back and starts slinging, his cards are going to shoot up dramatically. People are waiting to see what he's going to look like because they didn't get that good of a view of him last year.
Yeah, that's exactly why. That's exactly why some of those raws are where they are. I'm actually been picking up raw burrows, not to grade, but just to as soon as that season starts, I have no doubt he's going to come back, look strong, and I'll turn him into baseball cards later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other teams, it definitely looked like people were drafting fantasy. People were trying to bring back the double dips from college. So you had Burrow and Jamar Chase. You have Tua and Jalen Waddle. You have Hurts and Devonta Smith. And all those guys all played together in college. They all had phenomenal stats in college. And if they can rekindle some of that magic, Tua is another guy. Did not have a fantastic rookie season. Came in with a ton of hype, a lot of love, and his cards also affordable right now. Some of his base cards, we talked about it 2 weeks ago on the podcast. Somebody that we're acquiring. You can buy PSA 10s in some of his base cards for less than $200. And if he can get some of that magic rolling, you should easily see 3 to 4 times your money on those.
Yeah, I mean, Tua's got a lot of speed around him now. With his wide out. So it should be interesting to see. And the other interesting is going to be see is how much of a direct relationship is there going to be with the drafted rookies and the quarterback play, and how quick is that going to manifest itself? So Burrow and Tua come out slinging, but it's not necessarily Jamar Chase and Waddle getting involved. But are we going to see? Are we going to start seeing growth on those cards right away?
Yeah, I mean that leads us to another discussion as far as position players. And last year there was a tremendous hype on position players out, other than the quarterback. We'll circle back on some of the other quarterbacks here in a minute, but let's talk, your wide receivers from 2020: CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Rager. All guys that went really high in the draft, and maybe Lamb retained some value, but everybody else did not play well, had injuries, other things. And those values, when they came out in September with Mosaic and all the hype and everybody getting excited, I mean, you're probably looking at half to maybe less than half of when they came out to where they are now for those cards.
Yeah, and to be fair, this release. So when we don't have the NFL release dates on the non-college products yet, right? So to be fair, last year in the middle of the pandemic, everyone home and football came out. I think there was a different hype and a different what have you surrounding those release dates. And yes, people were overpaying out of their mind for mosaic cards. So I agree with you. They have mostly tanked. So it should be interesting to see. I don't see the hype disappearing now, but I wonder if there's going to be a difference between last August, September, October compared to this August, September, October.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, shout out to the guys on the Card Talk pod. They brought up Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They talked about that on their podcast, and he is the shining example of the position player that, I mean, his hype was so high when his cards came out. People were paying through the nose for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He got drafted really high. He was going really high in fantasy drafts. And, if you look at his card values now, super, super affordable. And he is the warning sign, So if you are looking to collect Waddle and Chase and Devonta Smith and Kadarius Toney, that the Giants drafted, or whoever the position players are in the first round, you can wait on that stuff. The initial hype is going to be there. People can't wait to get their hands on it and flip it and whatever. But if you're looking for those position guys, wait on them. You can easily wait into the 2-3 months after the product comes out, see how they're playing on the field, and still get stuff for affordable prices.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going to go back into 2019 and 2020 draft classes. Guys who exploded at first, maybe they're not ready to perform yet, or now walking into year 2, year 3 in the NFL, prices are affordable, but they're going to have more of the impact than they did initially. That scared people away.
The biggest one, maybe Laviska Shenault. He has a talent by the boatload and has not had a quarterback. So if he comes in and gets a bond going with Lawrence, I mean, he will easily take some shine, from the Lawrence hype. And, if the two of them are connecting for touchdowns, his card should shoot up, and you can get some really nice Laviska pieces with super sweet Jacksonville Jaguar patches on them for dirt cheap right now.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I like going backwards to your point earlier about the release side. I mean, listen, FOMO is going to be huge, and these things are still going to get bought. People are still going to buy into the breaks, and as they should. You do it for entertainment. You do it for the thrill, the big hit. I mean, we're not saying don't do it, but just for me, if I'm trying to maximize my value on the money I'm spending, I'm probably going to go pre 2021 draft classes and look to see what I can do there.
Yeah, I mean, look at last year's 2020 guys that didn't have fantastic seasons but are still talented. Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, perfect example. Edwards-Helaire, Henry Ruggs, Rager, those guys, their stuff is incredibly affordable right now. And, like Edwards-Helaire, perfect example. I don't believe that Le'Veon is in Kansas City anymore. And, he should get some shine back. They drafted him really high, and they got to get their value out of him. So I think he'll get more playing time in a high-powered offense, new offensive line. So he could be a much better pickup now than if you were trying to buy him, September, October of last year.
And then on the flip side, something I'm going to keep an eye on is some of your lower-tiered wideouts and running backs in the early releases here from this draft class that are definitely not slated to have an immediate 2021 NFL impact, but could still be had at a reasonable price now. So if you want to hop on something, there's a couple of running backs I'm looking at and some wide receivers that maybe 2021 initial values are, reasonable to hop in on.
Would you like to share with us who they are?
Yeah, like for example, Trey Sermon. He's going to be buried in the 49ers depth chart for a while, right?
Yeah.
But Mostert, Wilson, Gallman, they are all off the books at the end of this season. And boom, left Trey Sermon.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
He's a guy, he's not going to get much run probably this year, but he's, from all accounts, highly talented, and he's the future back there. And the Broncos guy, Javonte Williams.
Sure. We'll look that up and see if we can figure it out.
No, it's Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams. He's going to be behind UNC guy. Have you watched his highlight films at all?
Oh yeah. There was a whole thing on Twitter once he got drafted. Melvin Gordon posted like the googly eyes, as far as why the Broncos drafting another running back type deal. They already got Travis Lindsey and Melvin Gordon. So but obviously Gordon's going to be off the books in a year or two, and same with Lindsey.
Yeah, the idea there is by 2022 you're going to have him leading the backfield. But yeah, I mean the problem with him is he played in the ACC, so most of his missed tackles, the experts whoever they are, they equate it to just poor tackling versus heavy talent. But
Well,
he looks pretty damn good to me.
the guys at Duke aren't exactly known for their tackling abilities. Um, So a couple of other impacts from the draft. Broncos did not draft a quarterback, but they did trade for Teddy Bridgewater. So, we talked about Drew Lock a couple weeks ago. Everything we talked about still holds true if Lock wins the job. So if Lock wins the job, he's got a ton of talent around him and all the opportunity in the world to succeed. And once again, quarterback drive the hobby. And, let's see what happens with that. But I want to touch on, before we move on from the draft, I want to touch on the two other quarterbacks that we haven't talked about yet. We're assuming Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Fields are going to be on the field pretty much right from the get-go. Trey Lance and Mac Jones, we are not sure about yet. Obviously, Cam Newton in New England. And then Jimmy G in San Francisco. Neither one of them have committed to anything as far as who's going to be on the field. So those guys could be a bit of a delayed reaction, Justin Herbert type of situation. But unfortunately, last year, going into the hype, there was a lot less hype that has built, but now we're going to have 12 more months of hobby hype. So you got to figure that Mac Jones and Lance are still going to sell for big money.
Yeah, I think they are. I think the fact that Mac Jones is a Patriot and, linked to Bill Belichick and Brady, blah, blah, blah. I think Mac Jones could have went in the 5th round or 6th round to the Patriots, and he's still going to have hype surrounding him because of where he is right now.
Yeah, people are making Brady comparisons, but I'm gonna put Mac Jones on my bust list right now. I'm calling it May 11th, 2021. I'm calling it right now. Mac Jones bust.
Fair enough. I have no idea how to even tell you if he's a bust or not.
I don't. He just seems like he's. Brady came in super humble and just like that goofy aw shucks kind of dude, and Mac Jones is like swinging his. Whatever around. But
Brady came in with no social media. It's all different now.
Yeah.
All different. But I get you. I totally understand what you're saying, but it's all, everything's different now.
Yeah. I'm calling it now.
All right.
Mac Jones bust.
You're on record.
On record. May 11th, 2021, Mac Jones bust. I've been pretty decent as far as calling busts lately, with the exception of potentially Wander Franco, who is absolutely destroying triple A baseball. Actually going to see him in a few weeks, but we'll see what happens.
Still there?
Yeah, I'm going to be so pissed if he's not. Going to the Durham Bulls game with my pops. So hopefully Wander will still be there.
Nice. What's your take on Trey Lance?
I got to imagine Jimmy G starts the season. Everybody has said that Lance is an athletic talent, but he needs development. So you have to figure Jimmy G starts the season, and, depending on how good the 49ers are, if they're winning games, Jimmy G plays. If they're, 2-7 by week 10, you got to figure they're going to let Lance take the field and look to move Jimmy G somewhere.
Yeah, if they have all their defensive guys back, I have a feeling we're not going to see much Trey Lance this year. I think they should be pretty darn good.
Yeah, and we'll see. If he holds a clipboard for a year, you got to figure his card hype will be big at the beginning. But if the 49ers are 10-4 and looking like they're going to make the playoffs, and Lance hasn't played it down, I have to imagine his cards are not going to be as high in value, especially as you get into January and February, and could present some buying opportunities because they drafted him 3 overall, so he's going to play at some point.
Yeah, long-term or short-term, stats matter. So you're not on the field, it's going to dictate.
Yeah,